Three things about this week. One, from Monday to Thursday, we have a last chance at clarity, especially in regards to our communications. After Thursday, things are going to get soupy and messy and confusing, and it doesn't mean we can't find clarity, but it's gonna be harder to attain. Number two, we're going to have some jarring, awakening conversations or briefings or text exchanges or some kind of headline, God forbid, is going to be breaking news. I'm sorry. It's just what the astrology is saying. Number three, we are coming down off of a really loud, huge, massive, dramatic full moon in Leo. So let us take a beat, regain composure, and move forward, knowing that our tank is probably a little bit on empty. Hello and welcome. This is the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast. I'm your host and your astro bestie, Chani Nicholas. In this episode, we're talking about the week of February 2nd and the astrology contained therein. I'm going to say this off the top. Everything is still in play. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. The astrology of February is really wild. It's very intense. It is a whole conglomeration of little movements that spell out a game-changing type of month. Again, sorry to say, I wish I could just say, oh, it's going to be super boring and nothing's going to happen. I don't think that it's going to be surprising, although it might be shocking. I don't think that what this month holds, I'm recording this in January. I know everybody drags me for doing this, but I am not recording this in real time. I'm recording this in Capricorn season, so I'm not too far behind, but I'm behind. The full moon that just happened, depending on when you're listening to this, on Sunday the 1st, the full moon that happens in Leo is really loud and it's very obvious and it looks very awakening, meaning it could feel really rude. It could bring about an eruption of events that break open public consciousness, awareness. It could mobilize people. We're in Aquarius season, and within Aquarius season, a couple things are going to happen. We're going to have an eclipse in Aquarius in 2 weeks. Big effing deal. We've not had an eclipse in Aquarius near the North Node in a couple of decades. So this was a first of a series of eclipses. Eclipses are game-changing times. So we know that just having the sun travel through the sign where the eclipse is going to happen is going to start to galvanize us into these big changes. They're like quantum leaps. That's not good or bad. It's just an understanding of where we are in time and space. Then we're going to have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and these events are all going to happen together in the third week of February. February 17th is the eclipse. February 20th is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So that's what we're moving towards. We don't have massive astrology happening this week, although, like I said, I think that full moon in Leo that either you're living through right now as you're listening to this, or that just happened yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this, I think that that was probably a big inflection point. Anything that happens in Leo is going to be showy, is going to be eye-catching, is going to be attention-grabbing. And because it was sitting in a square to Uranus and an opposition to Mars, it just makes me pause. That feels like a situation that is a little unstable, a little volatile, and eruptive. And again, because it's a full moon, it's a peak moment. And because it's a full moon in Leo, it's going to be something that grabs our attention. So what just happened? Tell me, fill me in. Whatever just happened is going to need the week, most likely, to process it. So allow yourself to reflect on what this full moon just brought to conscious awareness in your personal life, in our communal life, in our global existence. And then know that February is a series of events. It brings about a series of events that look like massive, monumental occurrences. one after the other. And then we get into a Mercury retrograde at the end of the month that's exceedingly messy. So this week is a little bit of space, if we can call it that, between the full moon and the events that are about to happen, without a ton of like massive things occurring. But I do want to say that on the 3rd of February, Uranus, planet of disruption and upheaval and breakthroughs and freedom and liberation, is stationing direct. So those of you that have something, a planet or a point, at about 27 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius are going to feel this, 27, 28, 29. This is the time where Uranus is going to pivot on that planet or point and be like, hey, this is it. This is your last effort. This is my last effort to wake you up. This is the change that you're needing. This is a point of aggravation into motion. This is Uranus's last couple of weeks in this sign. By the end of April, it will move into Gemini and it won't come back into Taurus for another 84 years. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to be here for that. So last time in our lifetime, it's moving through the part of our chart that contains Taurus. And as it stations direct, it makes itself known. And it's also stationing direct near the fixed star Algol, which is the blinking binary star. Its flashing light says, warning, warning, warning. Now, it says warning because it's about rage and it's about how can I say this nicely? You know, these are the myths, right? The old myths are not easy to digest. And so one of the things about Algol is it is about the disruptive response, or the response of being rightfully enraged about an injustice. And it is anything that happens near Algol, especially Uranus stationing direct, it's going to be exceptionally poignant, meaning these are my boundaries. This is what I have a problem with. And this is my very loud response to it. This is my disruptive response to it. This is what needs to be named as wrong, or this is my righteous kind of rage against that. That's one side of it. The other side of it is that it is exceptionally creative. This is dark goddess energy, if that's part of your way of seeing the world, if that's part of your kind of ecosystem of like understanding energies and archetypes. And so any kind of like dark goddess energy is going to touch down on what is bitter, what is enraged, what is maltreated, what has been maligned. And because it touches down on that, it also informs us of the deep well of creative, regenerative power that we have access to when we acknowledge what enrages us, when we acknowledge what it is that has betrayed us or what the betrayal actually is. So I just feel like coming off of that full moon and moving into this Uranus stationing direct right next to Algol, again, it feels like it's time to unleash the power that we have when we refuse to stifle our rage, or when we refuse to stifle the feelings and the responses that we have to inequity. Now, the other thing about Algol is it can kind of have this feeling of like losing our heads, right? So it's like losing our ability to think clearly or losing our ability to be rational. So that is one warning that I think we need to kind of pay attention to as we move through this week. And I think all of that gets amplified on Thursday as Mercury, the megaphone, the microphone, puts its microphone up to Uranus. Mercury makes a square to Uranus. And that's when it feels like it's like, oh, breaking news, big headlines. This thing is going to come through and disrupt our daily life. Again, I don't wish for it. I would like to never have another breaking headline except for excellent news in my lifetime. But that is the nature of this astrology, is that it is bringing something to the surface that we need to know about, talk about, or that is coming to awareness. And because Uranus is stationing direct right near Algol, it does feel like this is something that cannot be repressed. This is something that needs to be said. And I will say, Mercury is at the end of Aquarius, and Aquarius is one of the clearest signs out there. It is one of the most intellectually clear signs out there. It's one of the most logical signs we've got. So Mercury, the planet of logic and thinking and speaking and articulating in Aquarius, is going to give us the information in the clearest way possible. In a square to Uranus, it's going to be clear and it's going to be loud and it's going to be quite direct and jarring. So you might notice that you're the bringer of that kind of news, you're the receiver, or that collectively it's kind of hanging out in the ethers. And then on Friday, Mercury moves into Pisces, which is the least logical, most poetic, most creative maybe, or one of the most creative, one of the most poetic, non-linear signs out there. And it just so happens that Mercury will station retrograde in Pisces later in February. So we've lost access to easeful, clear interactions. We've gained access to the poetics and thinking in watercolors, if you will. So that's the benefit and that's the loss. Mercury is in both its detriment and its fall, both its exile and its fall in Pisces. So it doesn't work as normal. So we're not going to get the information that we need in the way that we're used to getting it at the speed in which we're used to getting it at this time. And especially not at the end of the month when it retrogrades there. But what we are going to get is a different way of thinking and a different way of seeing, and hopefully a more compassionate way of seeing or more creative way of thinking. But just focus on what details might I be missing or not telling people. And then at the end of the week, Venus makes a square to Uranus as well. So two of the faster moving planets are picking up on this energy from Uranus. And when Venus and Uranus come together, there's a real mark of needing freedom in our relationships and needing freedom and finding new ways of seeking out joy, pleasure, beauty, art, sweetness. So this is a very liberatory kind of mark. This is also Venus in Aquarius that wants to think about our collective relationships. Square Uranus, it's going to say, okay, well, this is what the group needs. And this is how we have to interrupt our own people pleasing in order to make sure that the group or the collective is cared for and connected to. Now, next week, Venus will move into Pisces, and that will be exceptionally helpful. It's not going to change everything, but it's going to be one of the sweet spots in the sky. We're going to have Venus in its exaltation. We're going to have Jupiter. We have Jupiter in its exaltation. They're going to make a trine eventually, and it's going to be our bright spot in the clustery, cloudy, chaotic skies of February. There is help. And the help comes when we, yes, take care of each other and focus on our connections. So these are the three things that we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we are resourcing ourselves. We are going to remember that everything is still in play. We are not going to stay locked in fear. We're going to remember that we are co-creating this moment always. And we are going to remind ourselves and each other that our power is in what is local to us. Our power is in how we care for one another. Our power and our way through this moment is, always was, always will be, but is definitely right now going to be about how we show up for ourselves and each other. We don't have to go far. What we need to do is take care of what is right around us. And that extends itself out in a gorgeous web of interconnection and power. Now it's time for the Ask Me Anything portion of this podcast.
Hi, Chani. My name's Denise. I have an astro question for you. So myself, my husband, and my two kids, we all have fixed sun signs in our chart. And I'm just curious what, identifies a fixed sign. I would love to hear your take on it, and how that can manifest in someone's, human qualities anyways, I want to thank you for the amazing work you do. You've been such a support for me in my personal and professional life, and want to send you lots of love and happy holiday season. You want to say hi? Hi, Chani.
Love,
Hi.
love hearing the kids in the background. Thank you for that. Hi, everybody. Okay, so if you have a family of people that all have sun signs that are in fixed signs, or if you all have cardinal signs, if you all have mutable signs, you will be heavily influenced by the nature of that modality. So fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. And the main significations of fixed signs is stubbornness, is about being relentless, is about a kind of strength or confidence in one area of your life or in regards to the style within which that sign operates. So Taurus is fixed, stubborn earth. So it is absolutely loyal, right? It is relentless in growing and building things. It has staying power. That's why it's always going to be there for you when you need it, when you need anything. That's a Venus-ruled sign, though. So very different than its opposite sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It is going to be really resilient and stubborn and confident and driven to go into the mysteries, to get to the bottom of something, to unearth the truth. Scorpio is really intense. So it is about consolidating emotional energy, right? Taurus is an earth sign. It's intense, but it's about consolidating earth energy. It's consolidating practical energy. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do with what we've got? Scorpio is like, how do I apply the emotional energy that I have, which is really intense and powerful and potent, to getting down to the truth of something or uncovering something. So it's about emotional intensity, whereas Taurus is practically intense. It's able to be consistent and stubborn and resilient in what it wants and also what it wants to build and in terms of a process. And Scorpio, its opposite sign, is ruled by Mars. So it's resilient and it's strong and it's stubborn in terms of cutting through the BS and getting down to the truth, but also in terms of its emotional intensity. Again, there's just that kind of feeling of like when you stumble upon a Scorpio's soft spot, you're like, uh-oh, I didn't know that this was here. And the depth of feeling that a Scorpio feels is unparalleled. Cancer and Pisces could never. Do you know what I mean? It's intense and it's deep. So it's as deep as it is intense. And Taurus is as building and as firm and as grounded as Scorpio is deep and intense. Then on the other spectrum, you have Leo and Aquarius. Leo is a fixed fire sign. It is going to shine. It is going to get your attention. It is going to be brilliant and consistent in its wattage. So the sun is just always blazing. That is Leo. It is intense and confident in its ability to illuminate a situation. I'm not saying that if you're a Leo, you always feel confident. That's not what I'm equating. What I'm saying is the style of Leo, especially if you have your sun in Leo, is to project confidence, to project warmth, and to be captivating. It's just its job. Leo is ruled by the sun. Now, Aquarius is the fixed air sign. So it's intellectual, it's mental energy. And it is ruled by Saturn, the planet that is the furthest out to our naked eye, the last planet that we can see in the solar system. It is the boundary and the barrier of known reality. It is the furthest planet out, right? Leo is the center. The sun, is the center. Saturn is the furthest planet out to our, without a telescope. So one is oriented towards being in the center, Leo, shining brightly, consistently, confidently. And the other one, Aquarius, is all about being like, I don't want to be in the center. I want to be at the margins. I want to look from the outside in so I can see everybody's point of view, so I can understand the entire system, so that I've got the greatest perspective. This is a sign that is the most intellectually confident. Not that Aquariuses always feel so confident about their ideas, but they spend a lot of time thinking things through. How they think and how they come up with their ideas and with concepts and how they understand systems and structures is very important. That's not at the center of Leo's thing, unless you have an Aquarius rising with a Leo sun, right? Then you've got to think about all the ways in which the rising signs come into play, which are, I think, almost more important than the sun sign if we're just going to talk about signs without understanding the planets and where they are. So there's the rising signs, there's of course the moon sign, there's the sign of the ruler of the ascendant. All these things color everything, right? So I'm talking in like kind of pure energetic understanding. But Leo's the inside, Aquarius is the outside. Both are, or all four, right? All four are consistent and potent and powerful and stubborn and determined and there, right? A fixed sign is holding the center. And I'm mixing metaphors because I said Aquarius is on the outside. But it is about consistency and it is about relentlessness. It is about being able to be at the hub, right? The other signs, the other modalities, cardinal signs are about change. They're always changing things. They're always initiating things. Mutable signs are about being in flux, being a little bit of everything, being both and, being in betwixt, in between, all of it, and then some. Fixed signs are like, I'm here. This is what I am. This is what I do. I'm consistent. This is how I do it. They stay. So maybe you have epic disagreements. Maybe you have epic amounts of staying power as a family. Maybe it's hard to change gears as a unit. Who wins? Who wins when everyone's a fixed sign? Can be kind of epic. But it's not always a battle, of course. So how do you learn? How do you do flexibility? How do you change course as a family unit? And how do you make room for everybody's intense, consistent point of view, sense of self, persona, personality? You know, Taurus is going to be the softest because it's ruled by Venus. Scorpio is going to be the most emotionally intense because it's ruled by Mars. So it wants to, dig in and sleuth out what's happening. Aquarius is going to be the most intellectually intense and have the greatest kind of perspective. And Leo's going to be the most dramatically intense or the most able to kind of illuminate a situation or a feeling or a thought. It's going to want to get the most attention. But again, you might have a mix of all things and your partner might have a mix of all things and your kids might have a mix of all things. So, all these things are always at play. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Say hi to your kids. All right, y'all, that is the end of our episode. Come back next week. We will talk about Venus moving into Pisces, which is going to be so helpful. I'm so happy to report that that is happening. But the biggest news is that Saturn is moving into Aries. No more Saturn in Pisces. So Pisces, Virgo, Sag, and Gemini, you all catch a little bit of a break until April, until Uranus moves into Gemini. But now that Saturn has left Pisces, especially Pisces, you're done. It's a wrap. If you have Saturn in Pisces, your Saturn return is officially a wrap. If you have Saturn in Aries, officially you are in your Saturn return. Here we go. We have a Saturn return course in the Chani app. Go listen to it now. Understand the area of your life that is going to be most impacted by your Saturn return so you can get the most out of it. I'm sending you so much love, so many blessings. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.